Hello, and hello to the Nissan Murano, a car you probably haven't thought that much about recently, and it seems like Nissan also hasn't thought that much about this car recently, as it's been a decade since it's been completely redesigned. But now we have this new 4th generation 2025 Nissan Murano, finally completely new. So let's take a look at Nissan's new 2-row midsize SUV. The 2-row midsize SUV segment is seen by many OEMs as a borderline luxury one. These buyers want a bigger vehicle than a compact crossover, say the Nissan Rogue, while not needing the practicality of a 3rd row in their lifestyle. And I would say that is definitely the route that Nissan has taken with this new Murano. The feature set, the design, and the overall ethos of this vehicle definitely speaks to more of a luxury buyer than you might expect from a Nissan crossover. And I think it does start with this styling, like I mentioned. It is very elegant, very modern. I'm not the biggest fan of this split headlight design with the body colored segment running through the middle of the grille and this black bar connecting the upper headlights, but overall I do think this is a pretty premium looking vehicle, and it definitely stands out on the road. This 4th generation Murano is definitely a bit rounder than the 3rd generation Murano, more reminiscent of the 1st and 2nd gen Murano, and kind of reminds me of a big comfy sofa. Again, speaking to that luxury aesthetic. My favorite part of the exterior design of this car has to be these 21-inch rims found on this platinum trim level. I really like it when OEMs take a risk in designing a different style of wheel, and Nissan has certainly succeeded with these wheels. And around back, there is no mistaking what model you are looking at, as it says Murano in massive font, which I think is kind of smart because, again, Murano has not been in the news for about 10 years. And overall, I think this is a pretty handsome design. We do have a light bar, but I appreciate that Nissan made it a bit more interesting, making it thicker around the sides and then thinner in the center. And again, very rounded, approachable, comfortable, luxurious exterior design. Yeah, overall, not too bad. Under the hood, Nissan has made a couple of changes. The old 3.5-liter NA V6 is gone, replaced by this 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder, making 241 horsepower and 260 pound-feet of torque. That is 19 fewer horsepower than the outgoing V6 and 20 more pound-feet of torque. And the fuel economy figures for this 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder are identical to the outgoing V6 with 23 mpg combined for both. So it seems like this is a lose-draw situation. We have a less powerful engine with the same efficiency, which overall seems like a loss. I don't really get why Nissan would put a smaller engine in this vehicle if it's not going to be more efficient. It's going to have inferior driving characteristics, as we'll talk about in a minute, and it doesn't even get better fuel economy. They have also changed the transmission. The old CVT is gone, replaced by a 9-speed automatic transmission, which would be a good thing if it was a good transmission, but I have found it very jerky, and I'll talk more about that while driving this vehicle. So overall, the powertrain of this Nissan Murano is a bit of a, why would they do that? But let's turn to an area where I think this 4th gen Nissan Murano really excels, which is the interior. Like I said, this is the fully loaded platinum trim level, so this has all of the bells and whistles, and there certainly are quite a few bells and whistles. Starting with 2nd row space, this passenger seat is adjusted to about my ideal driving position. Knee room is good, foot room is good. The cushion is a little low, so I don't have too much thigh support, but overall very comfortable. Sitting upright, I have plenty of headroom, even with this panoramic sunroof. And I would say these seats are fairly comfortable. We also have heated outboard seats here in the back, dual USB-C charging outlets, our own air vents, peasant blockers to block out other Nissan drivers. We have these diamond-stitched, perforated 2-tone leather seats. Very, very fancy indeed. If I fold down this center armrest, it reveals a pair of cup holders and a nice little slot to hold a phone. And again, we get to appreciate this panoramic sunroof. So I would say that's quite a fair amount of feature sets for the backseat of a 2-row midsize SUVs. So let's hop up front to see what it's like up there. And up front, we are going to find it is even nicer than the 2nd row. Not only are these 2 seats heated, they are also ventilated, and they have a massaging function. Is the massage good? No. But it does have a massage nonetheless. But even better than them having massage function, they are Nissan's zero gravity seats, which genuinely are so comfortable. These are some of the most comfortable seats in the entire automotive industry. They worked with NASA supposedly to develop these seats, and genuinely there just aren't any pressure points. It's super soft and supportive I am always very impressed when I sit in a zero gravity seat from Nissan, and this Murano is no exception. Definitely really helps with the luxury of this vehicle. And then we have the interior design, which overall I would say is good. There are definitely some things I don't love, like the plethora of gloss black controls, which really show fingerprints, like the push button gear selector, all of the buttons on the steering wheel, which are also like not individual buttons. The entire thing moves in and out when you press in it, so you have to be very specific where you press. And there's also some haptic controls as well. Not a whole lot of physical controls, basically, is what I'm saying in terms of things I don't love. But overall, I really do like the design. I love this open pore wood trim, and I do think it's really cool that Nissan has integrated haptic controls into the open pore wood trim. Reminds me of what BMW did in the iX, and I think Nissan does this also in the Aria. This is pretty cool. So we have like our temperature controls and all of our climate controls. Yes, they're haptic controls, but they're not gloss black. And I think it's pretty cool to like really just tap the wood trim and have something happen. That's a really cool integration of physical design and technology. I like that. Do more of that. That's pretty cool. And then we have dual 12.3-inch displays, like every single car in 2025 has dual 12.3-inch displays ever since the 2014 Mercedes S-Class, I swear. But overall, they're very functional. You know, Nissan actually has really ugly skins on their infotainment system. Sorry to be so blunt, but they're just really unaesthetic, and they have weird graphics for all of their stuff. But you can do CarPlay in Android Auto, so you don't have to worry about that at all. We have a wireless charging pad along with dual USB-C charging outlets. We have a 2-spoke steering wheel with, again, all these gloss black buttons. They're functional, just they show a lot of fingerprints. And this steering wheel is also heated with a nice matte physical button to the left of the steering wheel. Some of the switchgear in here doesn't feel very high quality, like the button to turn on your massaging seat and some of the buttons to the left of the steering wheel, and certainly like the parking brake. It just looks a little old, but overall, I really do like the design. These two-tone seats. We have like this contrast blue stitching, which I'm not so sure about, but it's definitely interesting. Sorry, I'm jumping all over the place. A good size center console, 2 cup holders, sunglass holder, which is certainly nice. And yeah, overall, I appreciate the aesthetic. There's a bit too much gloss black. Not quite enough physical controls. We do have a volume knob though, but I really like these haptic controls that are in the wood, and that we have CarPlay. Like, that makes everything pretty good. So let's get this new Nissan Murano out on the road and talk about the driving dynamics. Before I forget, the Nissan Murano features a pretty usable 33 cubic feet of space behind the second row, and you can fold said second row down just by pulling on these levers and then pushing the seats. And that expands the cargo capacity to 63.5 cubic feet. So it is a pretty usable vehicle. All right, driving the 2025 Nissan Murano, flooring it here. You know, it's decently quick. It definitely has pickup. I haven't really wanted for power in this vehicle. What I have wanted for is power when I request it. And I think most of that is to do with this 9-speed automatic transmission. So, you know, it takes a while to shift down. So I'm in the standard drive mode right now, going 40. If I floor it, there's the power. It really did take a while for it to shift down. It's not really turbo lag that I'm feeling. It's really just, you put your foot down and then it's like, oh, I need to downshift. Let me downshift. And then it downshifts, and then you get power. So not great in like trying to make an aggressive pass or something, but also just switching from drive to reverse, doing a 3-point turn, pulling out of a parking spot. I've noticed it really is hesitant in changing gears. It's a very odd feeling. The transmission just, it doesn't feel refined at all. Switching into reverse, it's like you press the button and there's again a delay. It's like, oh, I need to switch into reverse. Okay, and then it switches into reverse, and then you just kind of you start backing up. If you try to like give it gas in like right after you've switched from drive to reverse, it's jolting, it's jarring, it's not very smooth. And I've noticed that in basically every, you know, configuration of however you can change from drive to reverse, reverse to drive, or even just at low speeds if you are pulling away from a stoplight. It is very not smoothed, unrefined is how I would describe it. And that's a bit disappointing because that was kind of a big point to a big update for the 2025 Nissan Murano was that it was now a 9-speed automatic transmission versus a CVT. But yeah, something's up with this transmission. It's not really my favorite. It's really the biggest negative thing that I have come up with in my time with this Nissan Murano. I've been living with it for a week, and that's really the only sore spot of this car. The 4-cylinder really doesn't bug me. Most of the time you don't notice it. It's really only when you put your foot all the way down and then you wait that you kind of notice it, but it's not the worst sounding 4-cylinder. It's not super rattly, super tinny. Overall, not that upset by it. Would a 3.5 liter V6 be more refined? Yes, but this isn't the worst 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder. I haven't been getting great MPG, mostly city driving. When I was on the highway, I was getting closer to like the high 20s, which is definitely better than like the 13 I've been getting right now, but it's very urban driving, so you can't read too much into that. But again, with the same MPG, very similar power figures as the old V6, or that the old V6 had compared to this model, I would much rather have that engine. I've driven that engine in like the Pathfinder, and yeah, it's a great engine. It's a 3.5 liter V6, nothing special, but just a little nicer, a little more like luxurious than this 2-liter 4-cylinder. So maybe there's going to be a hybrid model coming. That would certainly be nice to help boost fuel economy. But overall, the engine isn't too much of a bother. It's more just the knowledge that it could have had a V6. All right, but like I said, the 2-row midsize SUV segment is more of a luxury, comfort-oriented segment than a performance one. So it's not like the buyers of this vehicle are really going to be worried about the performance. That's certainly reflected in the steering, which is very dead on center, and even going into sport mode, which does make the steering heavier, still very dead on center. But let's talk about the comfort of this vehicle. I would say the most comfortable aspect of the car are these seats. The zero gravity seats, super, super comfortable. Like, you do kind of feel like you're floating. I would describe it as that. They're just really good. You got to sit in them to try them out. Very, very impressed. The suspension doesn't quite match the level of comfort that the seats provide. These 21-inch rims are the largest wheel size offered on Murano. So that could be part of it. Although I was pretty impressed by the amount of sidewall on these 21-inch rims. You still get a good amount of cushion provided by the tire. So I don't know if it's just the suspension is set up a bit firmer. When you take a corner in this car, you're going to get a lot of side-to-side wallowing from the suspension, and so maybe Nissan had to stiffen it up because this chassis and this vehicle it isn't a dynamic car at all. You cannot corner with a whole lot of speed in this vehicle, which is again fine, but I wonder if Nissan kind of had to strengthen the suspension in order to prevent even more leaning in the corners, and that has led to an acceptable ride for sure, but not overly impressive one. But otherwise, this cabin is a pretty peaceful and pleasant place to spend time. The Bose speaker system in this vehicle is pretty good. Again, I really do like the interior design. The overall aesthetic is one of luxury, and I think Nissan did a good job in that regard. It's fairly quiet in here. It's not like exceptionally quiet, but overall very acceptable. And yeah, I think Nissan did a lot right with this new 2025 Murano. The design, the styling, certainly the features are all where they should be on this vehicle. I just think there's some elements of the powertrain that aren't quite as refined as I would hope on a $54,000 vehicle, because this fully loaded Murano Platinum does cost $54,000. Murano starts at about $40,000, so there are definitely less expensive options out there if you're looking for this size of Nissan crossover. But to get all these bells and whistles that I've been talking about, and it kind of seems like it is the bells and whistles that differentiate this vehicle, the massaging seats, the zero gravity seats, these like the beautiful design, those definitely drive the price up. So definitely a vehicle to consider, but test drive it, see what you feel about the transmission, and test drive the competition too. So that's the 4th generation 2025 Nissan Murano. Overall, I think Nissan did a pretty good job with this car. It's super stylish, super luxurious, and filled with a lot of features. My main qualm with it is its transmission. It just doesn't quite feel ironed out and is a little unsettled. The 4-cylinder overall doesn't bug me too much, but the fact that I could have had a V6, and get the same fuel economy, well, that knowledge just is a bit disappointing in my head. But again, overall, I think it's a pretty good package. $54,000 is certainly a lot of money to spend on a two-row midsize Nissan crossover. And when you consider the fact that Toyota's two-row midsize SUV, the Crown Signia, is similarly priced but gets really, really good fuel economy with its hybrid powertrain, well, that does put into question the value proposition of Murano. But again, overall, I think it's a pretty good offering. I think a hybrid powertrain would really help. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in my next video.